In this video we'll be traveling on board of a ferry between Sweden and Germany. You do find quite a lot of ferries from and to Sweden. Today we'll be traveling from Lübeck, what is a little bit north from Hamburg, to Trelleborg, what is a little bit south from Malmö, on a ferry operated by TT Line. And this is a perfect connection for railway passengers as well. Join me on this TT Line ferry between Travemünde, what is basically Lübeck, and Trelleborg, what is not too far away from Malmö, so it's basically Malmö as well, and not too far away from Copenhagen. For now, let's get this video on the track, because I first need to go there, and let's roll the intro. Earlier that day we took a train from the Netherlands to Osnabrück, and now we changed trains in Osnabrück on board of an ICE high-speed train to Hamburg. Actually the train had a small delay, but recently my personal experience with Deutsche Bahn is actually quite okay. Hamburg is a kind of the gateway if you're traveling to Scandinavia. Of course if you go by train, but actually if you go by ferry you also pass by here pretty often. From Hamburg we took a regional train to Lübeck Hauptbahnhof. From Lübeck you can take a bus to the ferry terminal, although there is a railway line that goes pretty close to the terminal, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The railway station of Lübeck is mainly being served by regional trains. At the railway station there were several shops where you can buy some foods and drinks and also go to for information, buy train tickets, etc. Lockers can be found over here as well. We dropped our luggage in there before we went to the city center for dinner. When we moved to the front of the railway station, I also noticed this express bus to Puttgarden. The trains to Copenhagen used to go on a ferry in Puttgarden. Most buses do depart from the ZOB bus station. Literally translated, ZOB stands for Central Bus Station. Our bus to the ferry terminal also departed from here. As far as I noticed, apart from many city and regional buses, also some long distance buses do call here. At the bus station there are some more shops and there's a lot of information about departing buses. Within the railway station there is a supermarket where we just stocked up some fruit, just in case. TT Line is a German company and it has its home base in this area. So obviously you do find some ads on buses as well, although on the bus we had to the ferry terminal there were no ads. This was our bus bringing us from the main railway station to the ferry terminal. Now let's take a close look on the map for the ferry terminal. The ferry terminal is located over here, and right at the front of the terminal there is a bus stop. However, over here you also see a railway line. The closest station is Lübeck-Travemünde Skandinavienkai. I write it down on the screen as well. And even though the train station is not super far away, it's about a 35-minute walk from the train station to the ferry terminal or the other way around, so therefore I prefer the bus. And especially when we made this journey in one of the dark days of the year, and it was also a bit rainy. However, if you book your train ticket, I just advise you to book it to Lübeck-Travemünde Skandinavienkai, simply because pretty often the ticket price is the same as if you book it to Lübeck if you're traveling, for example, from the Netherlands or so. It just gives you a little bit more freedom. By the way, for train tickets in Germany, I do have an affiliate link in the description of this video to Trainline. It works perfectly for Germany and I really appreciate it if you use that link to support this channel. Anyway, I purchased a ticket through the DB app for the bus that brought us to the Skandinavienkai terminal bus stop, what is basically the bus stop for the ferry terminal. Well, this ferry terminal is being used by several ferry companies. I'll explain a little bit more about that later on, and also about some other companies that run on very similar routes. And if you are very known with this YouTube channel, you know that this is not the first time that we'll take a ferry from Germany to Sweden or the other way around. However, it's the first time that I'm not taking Stenaline on this. What I like about this ferry terminal is that it's being used by several companies. So basically, you just also have more facilities, what is just benefiting us as a passenger on board of these ferries. While most food passengers made their way to the Finnlines ferry terminal desk, I went to TT line for the check-in. Well, you need to go to the TT line counter to check in person. I honestly don't know how this works if you're traveling by car. But for a food passenger, you have to check in here. They will give you your key card where you can use to open the cabin door. Not all departure times are able to go on board as a food passenger. Initially, we planned to go one day later. And that ferry departed also later and arrived earlier, so I asked what's the deal here. And apparently the ferry we have has 2 departure times. One that is also suitable for food passengers like us, and one that's the real departure time, and that's actually mainly being used for truckers. Before I tell you a little bit more about the routes of TT line and show you the vessel, let's discover the ferry terminal. The last time I was here, I had a Finnlines ferry from Travemünde to Malmö that departed at 3 o'clock at night or so. Actually, at that moment, basically everything here was closed and the ferry had a delay. So basically I ended up very hungry, and not only me, also some of my friends. This was, by the way, all before I started making these kind of videos. Back then, one of my biggest points of criticism on this ferry terminal is there are no vending machines even to buy some snacks. But they put vending machines here. And apart from that, there is a big shop over here with lots of drinks. Really a lot of drinks. What is a bit ironically actually, because on all these ferries from and to here, you can also buy tax-free stuff. And this feels like a pre-tax-free shop? I don't know. If you're traveling by car, you obviously have to wait a bit, at least if you're here on time, before you can board the vessels as well. And I noticed quite some people leaving their cars and going here. Actually mainly truck drivers. There is a whole lot of cargo moving around over here. And as you maybe already can see, from the parking area, or I think basically close to the check-in area for car and truck drivers, you can also go into the ferry terminal building and then you get out over here. There are some nice places where you can just take a seat and wait. It's a bit like a restaurant, although it's not really a restaurant. And if you go on board with these ferries as a food passenger, you have to go to the shuttle bus exit. Basically, just stay there if you are traveling on board with these ferries as a food passenger. It has been marked crystal clear. Actually, on board with this ferry, we were the only food passengers today. Within the ferry harbour of Lübeck-Travemünde, you won't find gates that are connected to the vessels. You will be brought on board of the vessels by bus. And this place is just absolutely huge. If you go here by car, you really see how big this place is. I mean, there's so many parking lots. I mean, there are quite a lot of ferries that depart from here as well. Not only to Sweden, but also to the Baltic states and Finland, for example. Our bus is going here to our vessel. By the way, you see the bus driver giving it thumbs up? Maybe you can also give a thumbs up if you like this video. Today we'll be traveling on board of the TT line MS Peter Pan that entered service in 2023, so it's a rather new vessel. Before we discover the vessel and tell you more about TT line, etc., I hope you like this video so far. If you do so, or if it's a helpful video to you, please give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, this channel is mainly focusing on long distance and or international traveling, mainly by train, sometimes by ferry, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. For now, let's continue with this video, right? The bus that brought us on board dropped us at deck 3, what is obviously a car deck. You find quite a lot of car decks actually. Well, I won't feature the car decks, I think this speaks basically for itself. You do find elevators and of course stairs to the upper decks. Well, before we continue, let's take a close look on the route map for TT Line their ferries. And these are the routes where they operate on. Today we'll be traveling on board of Peter Pan, and this vessel can be found basically at all routes as far as I found out. They basically travel, for example, between Travemünde and Trelleborg, then from Trelleborg to Rostock, Rostock Trelleborg, and then from Trelleborg to the town I'm not going to try to pronounce in Poland, well, back and forward. Therefore, you can expect all different kinds of vessels on the TT Line routes. I honestly don't know how big the differences are between these vessels. For example, Finnlines, that's operating on a very similar routes as what we'll be taking today, does have all different kinds of vessels as far as I understood. However, I do have to say, the Finnlines ferries between Travemünde and Malmö, yeah, they don't go to Trelleborg but go a little bit more up north, or in general way more affordable. I have to add up to that, those ferries do not drop you in the best spot in Malmö if you are a food passenger. You'll be basically somewhere in an industrial area and you need to use a taxi to go to the city center. Let's have a better look on our route for today as a food passenger. We took a train to Hamburg, from where on we took a local train to Travemünde. From there on we took a bus to the ferry terminal and the ferry will bring us to Trelleborg. Right next to the railway station we find a train to Malmö. And this route is very doable as a food passenger. I show you the terminal in Malmö at the end of the video. Personally, I also found out that the prices for the different departures of the TT Line ferries are very different, so it might be interesting to look around for different departure times as well. Anyway, for now let's discover the vessel. And let's start off with the cabin we had. But just like at most ferries, you get a key card, and this key card is also your cabin key. My girlfriend has her own key card, so everybody has this. Well, you get it at the moment you check in. Our cabin for tonight is 10130, so deck 10, cabin 130. Let me show you around. So let me open the cabin with a key card, the boarding card. Oh, here we go. And here it is. Our luggage is already in. My girl is patiently waiting for me. And I have to say, I mean, you've also been on several ferries with me. I think it's quite a nice cabin, right? It's quite spacious. At least it feels spacious for now.
Quite new, actually.
It's a really new vessel, yeah. At the moment of recording, it's less than, I think 3 or 4 years old. I don't know exactly. But here you have, of course, you have the beds. We have a 2-bed cabin. You can take this one down, then you have some more less space and you can put it up as well, but you don't need to do that. Over here you have the reading lights. Well, they're really nice integrated as well. Here you find the light switch for the main light. And here, there should be curtains are pushed and really. So you can filter out the sun. We have an outside cabin, of course, for this. That wasn't that much pricier compared to the inside cabins at the moment we booked it. But of course, this is based on demand, so the prices might be different on this. Really a lot of space, I have to say. We put in our luggage already, and we have quite a lot of stuff with us, I have to say.
No chair.
There's no chair, but I think this can be used as a chair. There's something like a desk if you want to work from here. It's okay, it's not very big. What I like, there's some power sockets here as well. Just like next to the bed, where you also find a remote control for the television that is right over here. I think there are also some extra channels over here where you can look at the front of the vessel. Let me get into that straight away. Yes, you find some cameras around the vessel where you can look at. I didn't really use it, but especially if you stay in one of the inside cabins, I think this is a little bit nicer to see what kind of weather you have, for example. Apart from that, you find a selection of German, Swedish and I think also Polish television channels. At the moment we came in, it was a bit hot, but you can control the climate over here. It was really standing something like this when we came in. Put it at the lowest now, we'll probably put it a bit higher later on, because not everybody likes the cold over here. Not everybody likes the cold over here.
It's quite warm.
Now it's quite warm. And over here an emergency button for emergencies. And over here you have the reading lights. And here you have the power sockets. So you can filter out the sun. We have a outside cabin of course for the main light. And here you find the light switch for the main light. Just like next to the bed, where you also find a remote control for the television. I think there are also some extra channels over here where you can look at the front of the vessel. Let me get into that straight away. Yes, you find some cameras around the vessel where you can look at. Here, another light switch, and this is for the bathroom. And I have to say, for a bathroom on board of a vessel, it's a bit more spacious than what I found regular on vessels. What is in general pretty good as well. Toilets, sink, shower. The towels are not here, but they are on the beds over here. Let me zoom in. There are towels as well. I think it's quite a complete experience actually. I like the cabin so far. I haven't seen that much else of the vessel, so we'll do that in a bit, and we'll discover the restaurants as well, tax-free shop. So I think it's about time that we go there now. Something I forgot to mention, you should put your key card in here, otherwise no light. You do find quite a lot of different cabin types on board of this vessel. However, as far as I noticed, most cabins are very similar to the cabins we had. You find them with in and outside versions, and for 2 and 4 beds, where the 4-bed cabins basically have bunk beds, as you can see over here. You find cabins with carpets and without carpets, that are like for the allergic people. The cheapest option to stay on board are these chairs, but I wouldn't spend the night over here. Although sometimes this ferry makes the crossing at daytime, and then I think it's totally fine. Then you also find family cabins. This looks huge! These are the cabins that are very similar to the cabin that we had, but these are the inside cabins, so without a window. On the website I also noticed something that was mentioned as VIP cabin, with this one over here. But to be honest, the cabins are really nice, but you won't find this suites. So if you want to go for very luxury cabins, I don't think that this vessel is good for you. But in general, I really like the comfort on board of this ferry. And it's definitely one of the nicer ferries where I've been on. I mean, it's a ferry, it's not a real cruise ferry, although you have some cruise vibes. And I like this much more. The ferry I took after this was from Stockholm to Helsinki, what is more like a kind of entertainment park with lots of entertainment. And even though it was a nice journey, I like these kinds of ferries more. However, if I compare this ferry with the ferry I took after this one, the journey time on board of this ferry is also way shorter. Most cabins are located at deck 9 and 10. At the front of deck 10 and at deck 11 you will find the public facilities. Although there are some public facilities located at other spots of the vessel as well. This here is the restaurant area at deck 10. It's quite nice and spacious actually. It's not super big, but it's just really nice that it's there. You have a kind of buffet style restaurant over here. And the seats that you can book on board of this vessel are located pretty close to this area as well, but that's in a closed area. You can't just go in there if you don't book those seats. During our crossing it wasn't too busy actually. First of all, because we were traveling on a weekday in low season as well, and I think quite a lot of people had dinner already, so they went to bed at the moment they boarded the vessel. One thing where there's definitely not a shortage of, there are lots of power sockets all over the vessel. And somewhere at the wall at deck 10, there was a kind of history about the TT line and also all their vessels. Have you traveled on other TT line vessels before, and how do you like it? And what is your favorite one? Let me know in the comments. Directions about what facilities can be found where have been marked crystal clear on board of this vessel. Also where to go to for what cabins. There's even a special luggage room. I think this makes a lot of sense if you're traveling at daytime, for example, and you don't book a cabin. Or maybe if you stay in one of the seats. Basically, you find quite a lot of lockers over here. And I really like the wooden finishing touch actually. Well, let's go one deck down to deck number 9. In general, you won't find that much public areas over here, but there is a sauna. For the rest, you mainly find cabins over here. They were saying ladies and gentlemen, but I think something was broken, so they made it unisex over here. At the moment I was here, people were wearing bathrobes as well. My girlfriend went in later on. The sauna is free accessible, And there's also a small outside area with quite a heavy door, as you can see over here, but perfect to cool down. It's a really nice area actually. And there are quite a lot of ferries on the Baltic Sea that do provide free saunas. Now let's move on to deck 11, where you find most facilities on board of this vessel. Over here you find most restaurants, a play area for kids, a big outside area. You name it. So let's dive into this. Right now we are moving to the front of the vessel. Something here was mentioned as pet lounge. I couldn't really define what is the pet lounge, but I think it's just an area of the restaurant where you're allowed to go to with pets. Then you will find the restaurant over here and a lot of seating areas. Even though they were mentioning different kinds of restaurants, I think it was just mainly a different kind of seating experience. Over here, right at the bar, this was also the reception of this vessel, so if you have some problems with your room or whatever, you can just go there straight away. The vessels of the T-Line are named after some fairy tales, like the Peter Pan fairy tale, but also Niels Hogesand. What is more Swedish, I think, actually. Anyway, the mascot of this vessel was over here. What is Peter Pan? It's also named after Peter Pan. This here is another kind of seating area, and they do really provide some different kind of experience. Close to the reception and to the seating area, you will find the tax-free shop. I mean, we are on board of an international ferry after all, and this always comes including a tax-free shop. It's not very big though, but well, can be nice, and you can find some really good priced products over here. Basically it's the same stuff all over again, like you can find in many other tax-free shops, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on this. Although I do have to say I bought 2 of these packs because I just really like this stuff. Personally, I'm not a big fan of gambling at all, and that's the least I could say. And unfortunately, being on open sea and gambling do go hand in hand together because of less restrict gambling law. And you find some slot machines over here as well. Maybe the best area at this spot was the outside area. It's mainly because I really don't like gambling. But you find this small balcony over here. What I think is mainly meant for smoking. At the moment I went out, I could also see some glimpse of the vessel Finn Trader by Finnlines that will operate more or less on the same route. Now let's move a little bit more to the back at deck 11. And we first go to the central staircase. Directions have been given crystal clear here as well. A little bit more at the back here on the left, you will find some meeting rooms. Ideal for traveling and having a business meeting at the same time. And this here is the kids area. It's quite spacious actually. There is a kind of another bar over here, but I'm sure this will be open if you're traveling in the more high season and not in the super low season, like what we did. Then there's another seating area over here where you find some more cozy places and you can play board games here. Once again, there's no shortage of power sockets on board this vessel. Well, we made the journey on one of the shortest days of the year, and apart from that it was a bit rainy and grey when it was daylight. There is a sun deck as well over here, and it's rather big. I noticed a sign saying shuttle bus passenger waiting room. I think if you're traveling on board with this ferry, if it's a bit busier, you will be picked up from there by a shuttle bus that will go on board with the vessel. And this is the waiting room. To here you will find stairs obviously, but also the elevator. This is located right next to one of the car deck. At the moment we left Travemünde it was already dark and basically we were sleeping. However, it was a kind of daylight the next morning and I made this small stop motion video. At the moment we arrived at Sweden. You can see the Swedish shore coming in here on the left. Actually, we both had a very good night on board of this vessel. We slept very well. At the moment we approached the harbour of Trelleborg, I noticed lots of other vessels. By TT Line and also Stenaline is serving this ferry terminal. I have a trip report, by the way, on a Stenaline from here to Rostock in Germany. You can check it out in the description of this video. However, unlike I tell you in that specific video, and maybe this has changed, the check-in area for the TT line is a little bit different here. The lady at the reception brought us to the shuttle bus, and the shuttle bus was bringing us to pretty close to the railway station. I think where they drop you is different per ferry company that you're using. I mean, the walk I had from the station to the terminal building when I traveled with the Stenaline, it's not a long walk anyway, but this is really perfect. You're being dropped straight at the front of the station. Over here on the left you find lots of taxis, and over here there's also a pick-up and drop-off zone for passengers by car. And this here is the shuttle bus pick-up area. Within the central station there is a waiting area, and you find a vending machine where you can pick up the tickets and basically do the check-in process. I think they combine this really good, and also within the station you do find some shops. There are obviously also some machines where you can buy train tickets. However, it's really easy to combine a train and ferry ticket in one. If you buy your ticket at TT line, you can just select the train ticket from Trelleborg to Malmö as well as an add-on on your ticket. This over here is, by the way, the machine for the check-in of the TT line within the station. From here we took this very simple commuter train to Malmö. From Malmö you find lots of trains to all over Sweden and also to Denmark. Actually, the frequency for the trains to Denmark is rather impressive. You find at least 3 trains per hour. That's it on board of this ferry from Lübeck-Travemünde to Trelleborg, what I pronounce wrongly, I know, here in Sweden. At first I thought the ferry would drop us, the bus would drop us over here, but actually we are straight in front of the station. Yay, happy face there. Doesn't give that many F's. Anyway, from here on we'll take a train to Malmö, from where on we'll take an X2000 high-speed train to Stockholm, and of course there will be a trip report on that as well. For now, that's it for this video. Once again, I hope you liked it or this has been helpful to you. If so, please give me a thumbs up. Question, feedback, comments, let me know in the comment section. And if you'd like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, the main focus for this channel is long distance and or international traveling on a more sustainable way of transportation, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. Before we really end up this video, one last thing. Once again, thank you for watching. I hope you liked this video or this has been helpful to you. If you're interested in other videos, of course you can find them on this channel, but you can also find a link to a map in the description of this video where you find everything as well, but then on a map. And yeah, the example map here needs to be updated. See you on the next video.